Welcome back. Let's now bring you what we're tracking on our dailies. Abuja Inquirer is our very first paper, and we have with us Dayo Akintobi, our public affairs analyst. Mr. Dayo, thank you. Good morning, and I don't know whether to say happy Monday. I'm not happy.
It's a heartbreaker.
I'm not happy at all.
Nobody is. Nigeria is in mourning right now.
How did you feel?
Not happy. Sad. I watched it with great hope. We seem to be a cat with 9 lives, because a few matches ago it looked like we were done, and then there was a resurgence and we started giving hope again, and I actually really thought we would make it. So it was devastating. Everyone was down in the dumps last night. The atmosphere was so quiet and funereal, like somebody died. It's sad. You know, because really football is such a religion in this country. It's a major national pastime. It's actually the only thing I know that actually unifies everybody.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a sad thing. But lessons learned. It'll help us regroup and learn from our mistakes and better prep us for, like you said, maybe it was a good thing that it happened, so that we learn from our shortcomings and help to prepare better for next time.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about it. That's how heartbroken I was, just pacing in the room yesterday. What in the world is going on? Anyway, let's get to the Abuja Inquirer.
Okay.
I mean, we can talk football much later. Convention outcome. PDP sinks deeper. The riders, governors disown Wike, others expulsion. Rivers, Jigawa, Imo, others reject outcome. That's how the Abuja Inquirer is leading. So what do you make of it?
Suspending Governor Wike, Fayose, and all the others now is too little too late. It's medicine after death. This is what should have happened way back when, in the beginning, they turned against their party, as far back as the beginning of the 2023 elections. I think that the PDP has dealt itself a mortal blow. And I think it all started back in 2022, in the run-up to the 2023 elections, when, despite the agreement of the PDP governors to present a southern candidate, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar railroaded his way into the nomination. That was the beginning. That was what sounded the death knell and the throes of exsanguination that the PDP is going through today. That singular act on the part of the former vice president of foisting himself, even though you might say, well, he went through a primary, he was picked, but the fact that he emerged at all, or even presented himself for candidacy after the understanding and agreement among all the governors that they would present a southern candidate, and then he compounded the problem, and when they gave him a list of his potential running mates, he chose somebody other than Wike. Wike was at the top of that list. He chose somebody else. So he marked himself for enmity right from that moment. Those two singular acts sounded the death knell for PDP, and we are seeing it in its death throes right now, emanating from everything that has come out of that decision, the G5, you know, all of the things that coalesced around the 2023 elections to cause these problems for the PDP. Now, in terms of the convention, how legitimate is it? How much is its decisions going to stand? Look, what the law is what the Supreme Court says the law is. We cannot speculate, we can do whatever we want, we can say whatever we want. There's multiple sides of interpretations to every decision. Bottom line, PDP is standing on the fact, first of all, that there's a Supreme Court ruling that says internal party matters are not subject to judicial review. And they're claiming that this issue of convention, congresses, whatever, they're internal matters, so no court can rule on it. They're also using as a fallback the Oyo State court that ruled in their favor that the convention can go ahead. Well, Wike and the other detractors are saying we have two court decisions, the one that Sule Lamido got and the one that the Wike people also got from a federal high court in Abuja that says the convention should not go ahead. Who is going to be proven right? There is no soothsayer in Nigeria today who can actually accurately predict that. I don't care how well grounded you are in the law, because they say the law is an ask for a reason. And the reason that Janus has two faces is because there can be multiple interpretations to any law. So it depends on the mood of the Supreme Court that day. Maybe they woke up on the right side of their bed. Maybe the Supreme Court members are human beings. They are influenced by the environment, because if the law is subject to a myriad of interpretations, it just depends on the circumstances on the day your case comes before them as to how they will rule. So I can't say for sure today that what happened in about the last 2 days will go this way or will go that way. But I know for sure it's subject to legal challenge. So let's wait and see.
Yeah, and INEC was not even there, so according to them.
But there's an argument
yes,
that as long as you notify INEC that there's nothing that says in the books they must show up.
Yes, notification. Yeah, that's according. I think that's according to paragraph 12 and paragraph 13 of the INEC regulations and guidelines for political party, which was a subject for Sule Lamido, who got a judgment on Friday to the effect that he was excluded, and the judge, Peter Lifu, says, look, let him get his nomination form and be voted for. If he loses, fine, as all the people that are supposed to monitor the GIFSIT validation should not show up. And then the judgment of the Federal High Court as to the sequence condition, the preconditions for a national convention, condition precedents. So we're talking about some states not having proper congresses, a zone not having proper congress, and all of that. So there's a lot of political interplay. Sometimes you really, and I'm looking through the books, whether it's section 6, section 287, or the electoral act, well, there are 4 laws you abide by. You go to the Constitution, the electoral act, party Constitution, and of course their own the INEC regulations and guidelines. I don't know whether there's anything that says if you're filing a suit, it must be Federal High Court or State High Court. They're also standing on that as well. So there's a lot of, this is classic conundrum for the PDP, but we'll see how it goes eventually, because everybody seems to have their own argument up their sleeve to be able to make a case. But the Supreme Court has been very clear. Judgment after judgment. So don't come here if it has to do with membership and leadership. Yes. Except it has to do with nomination of people for primaries and all of that, according to section 84, subsection 14. Yes. But politicians don't listen.
No, and the sad part in all of this, the sad part in all of it is this issue of the fact that the only viable opposition, the only party that's arranged solidly enough to form a viable opposition is what is in disarray now and is at risk of extermination, which now, I mean, again, it's become a cliche now to talk about a one-party state, a autocratic, all-powerful one-party state, but the truth of the matter is a vibrant democracy requires an opposition.
I would have loved, because I'm coming to, it will come to you in a moment, I would have loved, where I'm sad, first and foremost as a journalist, this gives us a lot of work, because we're like the third in the layers of so the first layer of holding the executive is the National Assembly, then the opposition through the National Assembly, then the civil society, and then the media. So this is all the checks that has to put this executive on their feet. But it looks like perhaps everybody has collapsed, apart from a few CSOs, and now the media is directly, that's why they see you sometimes as an enemy. Now, where I'm going to with all of this at the end of the day is the fact that if we're not, I would have loved Bola Tinubu to be tested with a strong opposition. Very strong opposition, because he has never lost an election. So I've studied his politics. He does what I call tactical immobilization of the opposition. So he won in, I wasn't very familiar of his senatorial run, but he now became governor. You know what happened in the second term, and then how he been able to build his profile, and then the odds were against him in 2020. I think that was the biggest odds he has ever faced. In 2023 now, when Abubakar came. But this would have been classic, him seated and but opposition is falling apart. We don't know whether they will rise again. Bukola, do you think they will rise again?
You didn't ask the PDP. You're asking Bukola, who is far removed from the PDP. But, you know, so many questions are arising. And I'm wondering how, you know, the court case, the court rulings from the High Court in Abuja is being defended by the Minister of the FCT. Yes, we know how it's being defeated as valid. You know, he actually said that those who are calling it forum shopping did not study the books to find out what those who took the PDP to court are seeking from the court. And why, if we have a Supreme Court precedent to rely on in the case of the Labour Party, which said, where the court said, look, your matters are, you know, personal party matters, don't bring it before the court. But we find that the other courts, you know, are not relying on that in their ruling. So one wonders, you know, why there's so much confusion where the courts are concerned, and not just for political matters, for other matters as well. But of course, the PDP never ceases to bring up surprises. Let's head to the New Telegraph now. The New Telegraph is focusing on something entirely different. Insecurity, Magban writes, U.S. Congress seeks removal from proposed sanctions list. And we had quite an expansive conversation, by the way, with the Muslim group last week. But this particular one couldn't come through because there were so many levels to address as far as insecurity is concerned, the complexity of it all. But yeah, this is Magban putting up a defense. What are your thoughts, Mr. Akiti?
Magban is key, and the fact that they're coming out and they're talking actually is a positive sign in the direction of trying to address some of these issues. The United States Congress, a subcommittee today, is supposed to be holding hearings on the propriety of keeping Nigeria on this list of countries of particular concern. And they've actually invited some Nigerian clerics to come and testify before that committee. And when you listen to what Magban has been saying, and you look at the fact that the United States National Assembly equivalent is trying to determine whether President Trump should go ahead with the sanctions and whether he should go ahead and sanction some individuals as well, not just the country, but some individuals, withdraw aid and all of the things he threatened to do. It lets you know that this insecurity issue is something that requires a whole lot more attention. And I'm happy to say that since President Trump's threat, you can actually see greater momentum in the war against insecurity. The armed forces have scored a number of successes. There have been some bombing raids. There have been rescues of some kidnapped people. And even though we've still had continuous killings since then, I think the numbers are down. In terms of this notion of genocide against Christians, I think the killings are broad-based. There's genocide against Christians, there's genocide against Muslims, there's genocide against any, it's where the shoe pinches you. If it's your people that's been exterminated or killed unjustly, it's genocide from where you sit. So no matter your religion, and that's why I think it's too narrow to frame it from a religious perspective, because it is how it hits you that you perceive it to be. So of course Christians are perceiving that this is an outright war on us simply because we are Christians, and it diminishes the capacity to fight it if we frame it so narrowly. I think we should look at it more from a general insecurity issue, which is why I'm glad that people like Magban, remember that Magban had President Buhari's backing all the way, and some people still say that part of the reason insecurity spiraled out of control was because President Buhari looked the other way because of his affinity or membership of Magban. So,
but you know what they say about, you know, how the shoe pinches, he who knows where the shoe pinches, yes, you know, feels it the most. Yes. But earlier last week, we saw protesters in Kano State, you know, kicking against the planned military invasion in Nigeria. And, you know, over the years, when we've recorded, you know, clashes between herders and farmers, we find more often than not that it is the farmers, you know, that cry out. And one thing that I find that is not being interrogated as it should be is where this is coming from. Which groups, you know, have taken it upon themselves, you know, to carry this advocacy to the United States, to see the designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern. Since the proposed military invasion, we've also seen, particularly from comments and reactions of those online who are welcoming the invasion, who are crying out about government failure, they're coming from you know, the north central, the areas where there's been a failure of security. So if, you know, other groups are coming to say, look, there is no genocide against Christians in Nigeria, Christians are not being targeted, what is happening is more complex, why do you think we're not seeing that public outcry from, you know, the Muslim groups to say, and indeed it's not just amid this particular you know, security situation gaining global attention, it's been over time. Why is there no the same outcry, public outcry against targeted killings against Muslims in the north. So I wonder if this unsettles you as much as it does, unsettle, all the others who are looking at this situation and they're reflecting upon it, because it is those in the south, either those in the south or those in the north central, or those who have been targeted, that come out to say this must end, this must stop. We've dwelt, together as, a community over time. We don't know why these killings are now coming through.
Well, the Council of Islamic Affairs, which is led by the Sultan, actually put out a strongly worded statement about a week or two ago that speaks to this very concern of yours. And yes, there's been a larger outcry from the Christian community, which does not necessarily diminish the fact that Muslims are being killed as well. But the Muslims' approach to protesting the killings against themselves, they're not framing it from a religious standpoint, because it is northerners killing northerners, and usually in that case it's Muslims actually killing Muslims. So how would they now be able to say we are being targeted because of our religious beliefs if it's fellow Muslims who are killing fellow Muslims? So at one point there was a move towards saying that there are different sects of Islam. I'm sure you know there's the Sunnis, there's the Shiites, and their doctrinal differences separate them. And at one point it was trying to be framed that it's one Muslim sect against another. But the leadership of the Islamic community says it's Muslims killing Muslims. So it cannot be framed from their standpoint as...
But it doesn't have to be framed. Killing is horrible wherever and however it is done.
Absolutely, but remember...
So there must be a public outcry against it.
Yes, indeed, absolutely. But you're saying, why is the outcry coming more from the Christian side, and why do the Muslims seem to be muted in their opposition or in their abhorrence of what is happening even to their own people? And I'm telling you that on account of the fact that it has been framed as a religious extermination, as a religious persecution, that takes away the momentum from that argument on the Muslim side, because it's their people killing their people. Whereas the Christians can say it's another religion who's killing us for our religious beliefs. And then there's the notion of the fact that farmer-herder crisis have been painted as issues over land, whereas it's coming out now slowly that a lot of the killings are actually based on land grabbing and issues of mineral resources below the ground that are being sought by cartels with international backing and funding. And you see that when a lot of these villages are sacked and the people are killed, you go back there and you see mountains of earth already dug up and people going to burrow under the earth looking for stuff. So there's also an economic incentive behind this that seems to have been lost in all the dust that's been raised, that could possibly be propelling this even to a larger extent than the differences among us. Because it's not just religion that's different among us. We have so many things that are different, but in the midst of our diversity, we found common ground to be able to live together as a people, unified under one God, So it's disheartening any which way you look at it, but I think it's much more complex than looking at it just simply from a very narrow prism of religiosity. I think there's a lot more to it, and the government, I'm glad to see, has pulled up its socks since the threat. I'm going to try and follow the congressional hearings in the US today, because Nigerians are testifying before that committee, and the outcome of that, the recommendation of that committee could very well have an impact on what President Trump decides as the way forward. So I think it's important we pay attention to that.
I think for me, two things. First, we lie too much to ourselves. We don't face the brutal honesty. If people are said are being targeted, allow them to make that claim and solve that problem.
Yes.
On the other part is the fact that it's a failure of the system to be able to protect anybody adequately. And so I think the whole clamor right now, as you rightly said, is to see how we can accept.
Yes.
I think maybe we'll just accept there is genocide. However, I want to frame that genocide. If the target is that people are killing our people, whether they are Muslims or Christians,
then it's general genocide.
Let's go after the killers. Yes. All this grammar we're speaking. You know why sometimes I just keep quiet, because me and you, we live in Lagos, and I hear some of us who live in the city, the way we make comments, and you need to talk to the people in the villages that are being sacked. That is where you, because we wear suits, fly planes, eat the best of food. People are not sure of surviving, being alive tomorrow, the very next day. It's that bad. They slept this night. They are not sure waking up the next morning. Not because they are ill, but because they could be killed. They are not going to be doing this exchange with you and I and arguing over genocide. But perhaps all of us now have to come together, those who are affected and not affected, to say the killing of our people has to stop. I think we have all agreed on that, and that's where I think the momentum should be on. So if it's, I'm not a fan of foreign invasion to come and clear anything, because we know how it ends, but if the Nigerian state is not doing enough, what options do we have? Anyway, let's go to the Guardian newspaper. 2026 budget delays spark fiscal spending concern uncertainty. You know, a lot of things that happened, we forgot that was supposed to present a budget. I think we're running, is it 2 budgets now?
Yeah.
We're running the main 2025 budget and then some capital element of the 2024 budget. I think we're done with 2023 at some point.
As a matter of fact, Jeffrey, the administration met the 2023 budget continuing in implementation
it's been like that for a while. What do you make of this, Mr.?
Well, the most important thing to me is the fact that that budget has a deficit. We have to borrow money to fund it. Implementation is a problem, of course, because, like you said, we're currently running behind. We're overlapping one on top of the next, on top of the next. But the key point is, all these budgets, we don't have the money to fund them. And the only way, of course, implementation is determined by the fact that you have the money to be able to make it happen. So if you don't have enough money and you have to go and borrow, there's a move now to go and borrow $1.5 billion, I think it is.
Trillion. 1.5 trillion naira.
Trillion naira.
Domestic
borrowing to fund this deficit in the budget. Now, you ask yourself, Nigeria's debt servicing, from my understanding, exceeds what our revenue is. That's what we should be looking at, is that we have a budget, we can't implement it, we have to go and borrow more money and complicate affairs. I was looking at some statistics, and you know, the thing about it is that the statistics are so complex. You're talking about the ordinary Nigerian. Part of policy failure is that everything is geared towards people who live in the cities, the urbanized, the educated. You and I. Yes, go and talk to the man in the streets, the ordinary Nigerian in the hinterland, and those statistics are meaningless. It's the price of goods, it's the quality of his daily life, and those are not being reflected in those numbers, because all those budget highfalutin figures, they don't translate to, they're not translating to actual meaning on the ground to everyday ordinary Nigerians. So budget implementation, I don't think we've ever really seen it at a very efficient level for several years. And most of the reason behind that is that government revenue lags behind government expenditure. So they have to go and hunt for money to make up the gap. Okay, so now we've put our eyes on the fact that we are raising 1.5 trillion. What does that do to existing debt? And what will it do to the next budget in terms of debt service? Because that 1.5 trillion you're going to borrow, you will start paying on it in the next budget cycle. So that means already you've condemned yourself, or you've damned yourself to the fact that the next budget is going to be in deficit as well. What can we do to generate more revenue? We've tapped all revenue sources.
No, taxes are coming.
No, we've reversed the 15%.
No, the tax
January
laws.
1.
Yes.
Well, that's supposed to reduce tax on ordinary Nigerians.
I'm not so optimistic about that, Mr. Kitobi. But shouldn't we be asking more questions bordering on accountability? Because this administration has told us, you know, particularly over the last 1.5 years, that customs service is exceeding its target when we talk about non-oil revenue sources. We know now, apart from that, you know, we're saving money from fuel subsidy. We have a healthy excess crude account. So why are we borrowing?
No excess crude account, foreign reserve.
Foreign reserves.
Excess crude account is nowhere to be found.
And even the FIRS declared bumper revenue. And you look at all this fuel subsidy, by the time you add all of it, it seems like we have a lot of excess money. Why are we still short? Well, the government will say, well, they've passed most of the savings to the governors. So go and meet your governors and ask them what they're doing with it, with the money. But at the end of the day, there is still a shortfall somewhere in terms of the difference between what is coming in and what we see being spent and the effect it's having on our day-to-day lives. There's a gap there's lacuna somewhere that needs to be addressed, and you talk about accountability. The point is, in any accounting system, there's a debit side, there's a credit side. So we have revenue coming in, we have expenses. From all indications, Nigeria is swimming in money that it didn't have before from all kinds of sources, but we are not seeing the other side of the equation reflect that additional revenue. So what is happening in the middle? Where is it going? Is there a sinkhole that's draining it? Is it diversion? Is it being siphoned? Is it that they're not explaining what they're doing with it? Because it could be a failure of communication.
I could hazard a guess. First, maybe is what they are targeting, they are spending on. Second, we know they are stealing money. There's no
two ways about it.
There are no two ways. People are
Jeffrey, you have to provide evidence.
No, I'm not saying the federal government. I mean, if you look at if you talk to the people in what do you call forgotten this commission, one of the challenges we are facing at the country is over bloated invoicing, you know, this padding of invoicing.
Inflated.
The inflated, yes, that's the word I'm looking for. That is one of the biggest challenges. So something is 1 billion, you're seeing a quota for 15 billion. Because that's going to reflect in the budget. When they are submitting the budget, that's what they are going to reflect. It's part of the problem.
Yes.
That's why we need the EFCC to step up, to check, you know, all of this. So there's no, so maybe I use the word correct. The leakages, that's what I was trying to say. There are so many leakages. If there's fiscal discipline across board and the governors step up as well, I'm sure.
I don't think it's the FCC's remit to on its own go and start looking into the books of
maybe they have to look for. Maybe they have to look for. The truth is that people, some people are doing well, some people are shortchanging the system, shortchanging the system, you know, gaming the system for their own benefit. We can't argue that, you know, because after now you begin to see EFCC going after people. So at the end of the day, we expect them to do their work.
The system has its own mechanism for checking, or you know, excess quotations and contracts and all of that, and those opportunities to steal. We have the NFIU.
Who polices the checkers?
We have the BPE as well. So I think we should be putting those questions through those agencies.
No, those are the ones that come and answer. But we're totally out of time, Bukola.
We're
totally out of time.
Totally out of time.
Yes,
so okay, we'll anchor at this point.
Yes. Mr. Akitabi, thank you so much. And we're working on bringing, I've forgotten that, why am I, procurement, the full name of that commission is what has left my brain.
Bureau for Public Procurement.
BP.
So we'll look for those guys who check our procurement commission and all of that to be able to give us exactly why these stealings happen on their own watch.
Yes.
Thank you, sir, for coming on the program. We appreciate you.
Always a pleasure.
And for your insights and analysis. Thank you so much.
My pleasure always. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, we'll take a break. So this is we trying to set an agenda for all of the people that should check procurement fraud to make sure that you come on the show and explain to us what exactly you're doing to check, because that's where some of our monies are going away, and we need to get this money. The federal government is looking for money like torchlight. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll talk politics. Join us again in just a moment. We'll be right back.